What is up, YouTube? That's here, and today I'm super excited to be bringing you guys a brand new video. We're talking about the Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl remakes that are coming out in just a little bit, and today we're going to be talking about whether or not I think these remakes are going to be competitive games. I've heard a lot of people talking about their thoughts, and I would highly suggest you guys leave your comments below letting me know your thoughts, where you think it's going to be a competitive game, whether you think it's not, the reasons why. Please let me know in the comments. I love reading them. Let's start a discussion. And yeah, I think personally, I personally do think that the games are going to be competitive, but I have seen a ton of people saying that they're not including all these Pokemon, they're not including all these items, they're not including all these features, there's not a rank mode, VGC staying on Sword and Shield, there's no rank mode, and so I've seen a lot of people say that, and so they're really writing these remakes off, especially with all these leaks coming out, showing just kind of how hastily the game was thrown together. It seems like it's barely going to be even able to be playable on release without a day one patch. And so a lot of people are saying the game's not going to be competitive, just skip this one. And to those people that say that, like, that's completely fair. You're totally allowed to think that. I personally am excited for these. I loved Gen 4. I played competitive back in Gen 4. I was one of the people that played in a lot of like the I'm not going to say like original Smogon events, but I played heavily back on Smogon back the day. I voted in a lot of like the council and stuff like that to see what Pokemon will be in which tiers. And so as a seasoned singles player, I can safely say these games are going to be absolutely amazing. I think they're going to be great, and I think they're going to be everything the singles community wants. Even if we don't get the like 60-minute timer, or you know, any timer that's not the 20-minute timer, I think it's gonna be fine because we can still play on Showdown. But you know, I'm getting ahead of myself. We want to talk about both VGC and singles, and we want to talk about whether or not these games are going to be competitive. And I have a really great example because, again, people are saying they're taking away so many features. How can it still be a competitive game if they take away all these features? They're literally making it easier, just like they did with Dynamax, make it easier. Anyways, I have a good analogy, right? So I personally think that you know, let's think of like a competitive game. Like chess is a competitive game. There's a lot of different pieces that do a lot of different things. Another example of a game that's still competitive that's very similar to chess is checkers. And you may not think that checkers is competitive, but in reality, it's just a different skill set. It's a little bit more defensive board positioning and, like, you know, setting up certain... It's a different sort of setup. Whereas chess, you're setting up to pin, whereas checkers, you're setting up to go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and get all of them at once. And so obviously, it might be safe to say that checkers might be less competitive than chess. That's totally safe to say. You know, you might be right, you might be wrong, but one thing for sure is checkers is still competitive. Just like these games, even with their, you know, even with less mechanics to choose from, it really tunnels you into making sure that you're doing the mechanics that the game has correctly. I said a lot of this about Let's Go. You know, Let's Go games, first of all, these are 1,000 times more competitive than the Let's Go games. And, like, the Let's Go games, I feel, were still competitive. There was still a meta. There was still a hearty amount of people that played, and I loved them. The Let's Go games didn't have EVs. They didn't have held items. They didn't have abilities. And those games were still really, really good, in my opinion. And so these games are just a complete remake of Gen 4 with all the same Pokemon that were there, all the same items that were there. Now, things have been updated, like for example, Scald is a TM in this game. So all the Pokemon that had to use Surf, like Manaphy, like Suicune, like Swampert, like Melodic, that were all good Pokemon. Manaphy was banned back in Gen 4 singles, but they can now use Scald, which like completely changes the game. Like it completely changes how those Pokemon are played. It will affect the meta in a positive way. It gives those Pokemon tools they didn't already have. And there is an argument to be made that the Gen 4 singles meta was the most competitive that the game has ever actually been. I feel that's one of the healthiest metas at the highest level that the game's ever personally had. I'm a big fan of singles play, but if we want to take a look at VGC play as well, a lot of the Pokemon have kept the moves and stuff like that in their kits that made them unique in singles and doubles. There's still a lot of Follow Me Mons. There's still a lot of Rage Powder Mons. There's still a lot of Trick Room Mons. There's still a lot of Fake Out Mons. Like all these tools that make doubles fun and exciting, they're still in the game. And the Pokemon that get Ally Switch, there's only like a handful. It's like the Gallade line, the Alakazam line, and like I think like maybe one more Pokemon that really get Ally Switch. And so a lot of the, you know, things that, you know, weren't very competitive about doubles, like Ally Switch spam and Dynamax, like those aren't going to be in this game. And so I think that kind of goes into my next point, which is for a game to be competitive, a lot of people have to play it. tons of people are going to play these games. You don't have to worry about that. There's going to be so many new players coming back for this. I've had this channel for almost 10 years, and every time there's a new game, especially like remakes like this, we see people come out of the woodwork that are interested in playing games that they played when they were younger, to relive their glory days. And, you know, now that the internet's a big thing, they can look up guides to see how to get into competitive play. So, like, as players who, like, have been playing these games for a while, are a part of the competitive scene, it's up to us to, like, foster these players and get them interested and excited to do the competitive scene, because if we foster them and make them into the competitive players that we want around us, we will then have a competitive scene that's not relying on Pokemon Company, not relying on TPCI. Like, we have a Discord. You guys can check out a link to my Discord in the comments below. There's thousands of people in the Discord. All of them are absolutely amazing, wonderful people. And we sometimes host tournaments. Like, that's something that I plan on doing a lot in these Diamond and Pearl remakes. Like, I'm going to make the Battle 5 page, and we'll host like exclusive tournaments that aren't reliant on any in-game ladder or in-game system. It's just going to be something that we want to do for both the singles and the doubles formats, because I think it's going to be a really, really good time. I think a competitive scene is really what you make it. And if you get a lot of people that are smart people in the right place at the right time, you can make almost anything competitive. Like, seriously, like you can make a competition out of almost anything. I know in this video I've leaned a little bit more towards the singles aspect, and that's because I'm really, really just excited to play singles in these Gen 4 remakes, because Gen 4 singles, like I said, was probably my favorite format of all time. But I do think the VGC scene is still going to be great. You know, there's a lot of content creators like Moxie Boosted, you know, myself, a bunch of other ones that are still excited for these games. I know James Beck, his favorite Pokemon's like Piplup, so I wouldn't be surprised if he was really excited to play these games. And so they're going to play through their games, they're going to realize they have all the tools to make a competitive team at the end, they're going to make a competitive team, they're going to play one, like, casual ladder game. Now, I also want to mention that the casual ladder, not having a ranked ladder does not matter, because if the casual ladder gives you good opponents, which it totally will, just like it did in Let's Go, it's really not going to matter. Also, the good players are going to find other good players to play with through other Discord servers and things like that, so not having a ranked ladder isn't that big of a deal. But all these people who are going to beat these games because they're just going to play it for fun, because it's nostalgic, they're going to have the tools at the end of the game. They're going to have, like, mints. They're going to have, like, the ability to, like, breed good mons and stuff like that. They're going to make one good team and try their best. And they're like, oh, wow, like, this game is actually really good. If anything, this feels just like Series 10, with, like, the really impactful mons being on, like, Intimidators, Fake Outs, pinning, and really good stuff for the VGC format. They're going to see it's a lot like Series 10, and I'm not going to lie, I think a lot of people are going to get in on it. I also think there's going to be just a ton of people that are, like, you know, seasoned VGC players that aren't even content creators. They're going to get really, really into this. You know, this is my guess, but as someone who this happened to in Let's Go, like, I was super excited for Let's Go. They came out, and the game just blew me away. I really loved focusing on how simple the mechanics were, making sure your team of 6 is perfectly well balanced, making sure you're leading with the right Pokemon, making sure you're potentially setting up hazards / respecting your opponent's hazards. It's a great way to teach yourself how to be a good player by going back to the basics. And I think this is like the next step in going back to the basics. Like, you're slowly adding abilities, you're slowly adding items, adding EVs and stuff like that in the mix. And I do think that for people that want to become, like, the best Pokemon players possible, this would be a great way to spend your time in between, like, the next generation of Pokemon. Just because, like, I personally feel that, like, sitting there grinding VGC super sweaty tryhard on, like, Series 11 and Sword and Shield, when, like, I'm not gonna, like, 80% of the player base is gonna dip. You're probably not gonna be able to find that many people to play with for the next month or so, especially because, like, these remakes are coming out, then Christmas, and whatever game comes out around Christmas people want, and then Arceus, like, it's gonna be a ghost town. So you could super sweaty tryhard and play a format based around Dynamax, which probably won't be in the next game, or you can go back to basics with these remakes and try your best to, like, focus on your fundamentals. Make sure you're bringing the right Pokemon. Make sure you're analyzing your opponent's team preview correctly. I feel for people that want to get better, like, there's the sky's the limit on how much you can actually learn from these games, because you're, like, it's, how do I word this? I'm just getting so ahead of myself because I'm so excited. You don't want to learn too much too fast. I feel a lot of people that just jumped into Sword and Shield without actually playing Let's Go or any of the other games, they got just thrown EVs, items, weakness policy, abilities, Dynamax, all this stuff, and they didn't actually, like, focus on, you know, understanding what, like, a team preview meant. Hell, we don't even know if the team preview phase is going to be in these remakes, because it wasn't in the last one. Back in the day, you used to just pick a lead and that was your lead. I personally hope that you can toggle that on and off in, like, the settings when you, like, ask someone for a match, but because I think it would be cool to learn both of them. But yeah, I personally feel like a lot of people didn't really focused on trying to beat the opponents without knowing the tools that they needed as players to do so. And that's being really comfortable with your own team, knowing what your team says that it does, having faith in what your team says that it does gives off the illusion that says hey, if I'm using a team that has Groudon Charizard in it, and that's a ton of AoE, that's a big Heat Wave, that's a big P-Blades, if you don't respect that, and I have super effective moves that are good against you, you will automatically lose. So if your team just has that in your team, your opponent's gonna have to respect that. They might have to go with a Venusaur to maybe check the Groudon, a Lecky to beat the Zard or something like that. And so just based off what your team says that it does, if you're a good player, if you've been playing a while, you'll know what your opponent has to do to beat you. And that's super important. And so that's where you can start tweaking your team itself, the illusion that it gives off, to give off a better illusion to bait your opponent into leading the mons that they lead with. That's why when you see me play, I don't really talk about this stuff. When I play a lot of VGC, you see me almost always be able to call my opponent's lead, be able to call, what I should be doing in the team preview correctly, because I know what my own win conditions are, so I know what my opponents are going to need to do to stop them. And I think this is a great game for really going back to the basics and making sure that you're doing that correctly, because you don't have so many things to respect. You're just respecting correct items, correct abilities, and just the general types. The power creep in general is going to get super scaled down. So instead of all these people I've seen people saying oh, this move's not in the game, this move's not in the game, this move's not in the game, and they think they're just writing off the game because they think it's dumb. If anything, this enables a lot of Pokemon that wouldn't normally be as good. We had a discussion the other day about Steelix, saying oh, Steelix doesn't get body press, Steelix sucks now. It's well, in reality, if the best Pokemon in the game is Lucario, Steelix can just earthquake that. It's not like you're fighting Landorus every game. It's not like you're fighting, Arceus is in the game, but you're not going to fight Arceus. You're not going to be fighting restricted. There's no Zacian, there's no Xerneas, they can't hurt you. The power creep is so much lower, you can just tech an Ice Beam onto 90% of the meta to check Garchomp. And then your main stab moves should usually be fine to one-shot or two-shot most other options. So a lot more of the Pokemon in this dex are going to be viable than previous games and stuff like that. So all the other legendaries aren't going to be super oppressive. Even if for example, Articuno, Zapdos, Moltres, they were in the game, there's definitely arguments to use something like a Roserade over all of them, because Roserade gets a higher speed tier than some of them. It gets Sleep Powder, it gets dual stabs that are really, really nice, and some other setup moves like Toxic Spikes and singles. So there's so many more Pokemon that are going to be viable because of the power scaling reduction in these games. But those are just my opinions. Please, please, please let me know in the comments your thoughts on whether you think these games are going to be competitive. I love making these videos. You guys want to see more videos like this, think about letting me know in the comments as well. And you guys can definitely join our Discord. It's completely free to join. Like I said, we have a few thousand people in the Discord. I think there's probably 6,000 or 7,000 at this point now. But you can definitely join the Discord. It's completely free to join. We have a Diamond and Pearl remake section. We have a VGC section. We have a singles section. People always ask for help building teams, and I'm in there as well. So if you want to get help building teams, you want to know more about the competitive scene, think about checking out the Discord. Other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you guys are excited for these games, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.